Welcome to the creepy tales of Hollow Hills. We will journey deep into the legends of this awkward little town. Today's episode, The Legend of Hollow Hills. This podcast is presented by VCDI and TCDI. Deep in the heart of the Appalachian Mountains, nestled within the eerie town of Hollow Hills, there lay an ancient cemetery. Its weathered tombstones leaped haphazardly amidst gnarled trees, their branches reaching like skeletal fingers towards the moonlit sky. This cemetery was not just a final resting place. It was a place where legends intertwined with reality, where every whispered tale carried a hint of truth. Among the many unsettling stories whispered by the townsfolk, one stood out: the legend of the mysterious pumpkin patch. It was said that every October, just as the air turned crisp and the leaves began to fall, a patch of pumpkins would appear in the far corner of the cemetery. These were not ordinary pumpkins. They glowed with an unworldly light and bore strange shifting patterns upon their skins. The townspeople, steeped in superstition and wary of the cemetery's dark reputation, whispered that the pumpkins were a manifestation of the spirits that roamed Hollow Hills. But there was another tale that sent shivers down their spines. A story passed down through generations about a caretaker from the 1800s known as Jack Holloway, whose head was said to have been replaced by a pumpkin. Jack Holloway had been the caretaker of the cemetery long ago, a solitary figure who tended to the graves with a quiet vigilance. He was known for his eerie silence and his habit of disappearing into the shadows as night fell. According to the legend, Jack met a mysterious and tragic end. His body never found, only his lantern and carved pumpkin left behind in the cemetery. As October descended upon Hollow Hills, the atmosphere grew thick with anticipation and dread. Children dared each other to venture into the cemetery at night, hoping to catch a glimpse of the glowing pumpkins, and perhaps even the elusive figure of Jack Holloway, the pumpkin-headed caretaker. One chilly autumn evening, a group of adventurous teenagers decided to test their courage. Armed with flashlights and nervous laughter, they crept through the crumbling iron gates of the cemetery. The air was heavy with the scent of damp earth and fallen leaves, and the moon cast long shadows across the gravestones. They found the pumpkin patch, nestled in the darkest corner of the cemetery, its unearthly glow casting eerie shadows upon the ancient tombstones. The pumpkins pulsed with a faint, rhythmic light, the patterns twisting and morphing like living things. Some bore faces that seemed to shift and change with each passing moment, as if trying to communicate a silent message from beyond. As the teenagers cautiously approached the patch, a chill wind swept through the cemetery, carrying with it the faint scent of burning wood and the distant echo of hollow laughter. Suddenly, a figure emerged from the shadows, a tall, hunched silhouette with a pumpkin perched upon its shoulders. The teens froze in terror, their flashlights trembling in their hands. It was Jack Holloway, or what remained of him. His body was hunched and cloaked in tattered garments, and atop his shoulders rested a grotesque pumpkin, its carved face contorted in a perpetual grimace. Holloway's eyes glowed with a malevolent light, and his voice, when he spoke, echoed in an unworldly resonance.
You trespass upon sacred ground,
he atoned, his voice carrying the weight of centuries.
These pumpkins are not for your amusement.
The teens, paralyzed with fear, watched as Holloway gestured towards the pumpkins. The patterns upon their skin began to twist and writhe, forming images of long-forgotten horrors and unsettling scenes from the town's darkest nightmares. And the air grew thick with an oppressive energy, and the teens felt as though unseen eyes were watching them from every shadow. With a sudden burst of courage, one of the teens stepped forward, holding out a trembling hand towards Holloway. "We mean no harm," he stammered. "We only seek to understand." Holloway's gaze softened slightly, and for a moment, the air around them seemed to still.
"Understand?"
he repeated, his voice now tinged with a hint of sorrow.
"There are forces at work here that even I do not fully comprehend. These pumpkins are a bridge between the worlds, the living and the dead, the seen and the unseen. They hold memories, dreams, and fears long forgotten."
As Holloway spoke, the pumpkin's glow began to fade, and the patterns slowly returning to their original state. The air grew quiet once more, and the oppressive energy that had gripped the cemetery began to dissipate.
"We are bound to this place,"
Holloway continued, his voice growing fainter with each word.
"But you have the power to leave. Remember what you have seen here tonight and carry it with you. But beware, the boundary between our world and the next is fragile, and not all who venture into the darkness return."
With that, Holloway turned and vanished into the shadows, his form dissolving like mist upon the wind. The teenagers stood in stunned silence, their hearts racing with a mixture of awe and fear. Slowly, they made their way back through the cemetery gates, leaving behind the pumpkin patch and its mysteries. As they returned to the town, Hollow Hills, the teenagers found themselves forever changed by their encounter with the pumpkin-headed caretaker and the mysterious pumpkins of the cemetery. And each October, as the air turned crisp and the leaves began to fall, they would gaze towards the old graveyard, half expecting to see the faint glow of the pumpkins and the spectral figure of Jack Holloway, forever bound to his eternal duty amidst the whispers of Hollow Hills.